Here she is now, Elise DeGeneres.
Thank you so much for coming to the show, everybody. Have a seat, have a seat. I'm so glad you're here. We've got a great show for you today. I'll be interviewing some very inspiring kids whose story everybody should hear. It relates to every single one of you in the room and everyone at home watching. Let's roll the clip.
Hi, I'm John Tinker and I'm 15 years old. This is my sister Mary Beth and she's 13.
And my name's Christopher Eckhart. I'm 16 and happily not related to these losers.
Oh, you guys are such children. We're here to tell you our story, which some of you may have seen on YouTube. It's called Tinker vs. Des Moines, where we went to the Supreme Court to...
Shh,
you're giving it all away!
Just let me tell the story. In December 1965, we all met up at my house to plan a way to show our support for a truce in the Vietnam War. We made black armbands to wear to school to protect the war, protest the war, and mourn the deaths of the dead in Vietnam, no matter what side they were on.
I bet you're all interested in hearing more. Come on in, kids.
Thanks for having us on your show, Elise.
Really, the pleasure is all mine. But I'm sure the audience would love to know exactly what you've been up to. Your story is going viral, but we've yet to hear your versions of the story.
The government calls it Tinker vs. Des Moines, 1968. All italics and fancy lettering and stuff. We just call it, common sense.
That's incredible. Now tell us, what even happened that ended up in a visit to the court?
Well, like in the video, we all met up at my house to discuss how we would protest. Our parents were very passionate about the war, and so were we. We decided to wear black armbands over winter break and to fast on December 16th and on New Year's Eve. The principals of our school in Des Moines learned of the plan and made a new rule that said any student that was wearing an armband would be asked to remove it, and if we didn't, they would get suspended.
We didn't care though. We wanted to show our opinions of the war, and we wore armbands to school anyway.
What do you mean? I mean, I don't want to be the bad guy here, but you guys did break school rules.
Yeah, well, there's this thing called the United States Constitution, and it's got a Bill of Rights. What the school did, that was breaking the nation's rule.
He's right. We sued the school on the grounds that it violated our First Amendment right to free speech. This allows us to clearly state our opinion and say whatever we want, as long as it was protected by the Constitution. There are things like libel, obscenity, fighting words, and threats that aren't constitutional. But we didn't do any of that. We were doing a symbolic protest, which was definitely constitutional.
Our speech was non-violent and didn't disrupt classroom teaching or limit the rights of other kids. We just wore an armband. It's pretty much like the school told us that we couldn't wear our favorite piece of clothing because the principal thought the colors clashed with the paint on the wall.
Wow, you guys have a great point there. So what happened after that?
We went to the court, but they sided with the school, so we appealed until we finally got to the Supreme Court. They heard our case and finally settled the dispute.
7 justices voted in support of our side, and 2 of them voted against.
The court said that we did not lose our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech when we stepped onto school property. This also applies for all students all over the U.S. In order to justify the suppression of speech, the school officials must be able to prove that the conduct in question would materially and substantially interfere with the operation of the school.
The school set up the policy out of fear of possible disruption. We didn't do anything to actually interfere. We just wore our armbands and went to school like all the other kids.
Wow, you 3 really set an example for all passionate students out there.
That's the thing, because the Supreme Court ruled in favor to our case. All students get their right to free speech without fear of getting in trouble. As long as you don't infringe upon anyone else's rights, you're allowed to wear and say anything that is protected by the Constitution. Don't let the schools limit your speech. Students do have First Amendment rights. As long as it doesn't interfere with class. Unlike that time when you both
started
nothing.
We didn't do anything.
Well, I think that's a story for next time you're on this show. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about your case.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, but before you go, I want to give you all a $10,000 scholarship for when you head off to college and a basket of Elise DeGeneres brand underwear.
Tomorrow on Elise DeGeneres Show, enjoy another hour of fun and surprises. Elise will be giving away tickets to exclusive tours of D.C., including a meeting with the president. Also, Elise interviews Supreme Court Chief Justice John G. Roberts.